What's going on YouTube? So on our channel a short time ago, you saw the all-new Mazda CX-90, a very important product for the brand and a new entry into that family three-row crossover segment that a lot of you guys love so much. Now, with the new generation of product, they brought in 3 new power plants, and today we are with the plug-in hybrid version. So we're going to focus today on this plug-in hybrid version, show you around the exterior, the interior, and of course, take it out on the road and see how it performs. So let's go ahead and get into that. Now, like I said, we're going to keep the focus here on the plug-in hybrid, but we do have a very detailed video already on the channel that really breaks down a lot of the features, a lot of the luxury that you get on the other versions, because there's actually 11 total trim level and powertrain combinations you can get with the CX-90. So there's honestly something for everybody. The PHEV is only available in 3 trim levels. That's going to be Preferred, Premium, and Premium Plus. You're going to be looking at the Premium Plus today. But let's focus here on the front end design. As you can see, this does keep pretty much the same look as the rest of the lineup, which is nice. So nothing weird or anything going on. You've got that newest version of Mazda signature grille. It's going to be a little bit more squared off. You've got the thick chrome that's going to surround it, and then you've got the additional chrome accent down here at the bottom. The inside's finished in a black mesh, and if we follow that chrome up, we're going to intersect into our headlights. So this is a very unique cluster because actually 2 different panels. You'll notice we have our bi-LED headlights right here. We also have a separated turn signal indicator running out on this part, and it's got that cool fading effect that we've seen on some of the other Mazda products. Now moving around to our wheels, we do have the 21-inch contrast alloy wheels. These are on the premium trim level as well as the Premium Plus version. Really nice look to these. These are shared actually with the Turbo S model in the CX-90 lineup, and it's the best looking wheel in the entire lineup in my opinion. Now we also have the matte black plastic wheel surrounds that are going to trace down along the bottom. In case you get confused about which model you have, they do put a badge on the side, so you've got the plug-in hybrid. And as far as the mirrors, standard heating, standard blind spot monitoring. Here with the top model though, we also add in auto dimming and power folding. Now taking a look here at the side, just like every version of the CX-90, this is riding on that new rear wheel drive based architecture. And as you can see, this is a very long vehicle. It also has pretty nice proportions. We're looking at about 2 inches longer than the current CX-9. But one thing I really like is that the hood has a nice long look to it, and it's kind of a cab in the back situation. Now, of course, you do have pretty much the same design details as we look at the side, and as we move into the back here, again, very similar. Nothing weird is going on just because this is a plug-in hybrid. I appreciate they kept all the details the same. We've got a little bit of a spoiler up here. We've got an exposed wiper right here. We've got some really premium looking LED taillights. Again, you've got that fading turn signal indicator as well. And then down below, they're going to add a little bit more chrome accenting. There's no exposed exhaust or anything like that. Now, of course, what makes a plug-in hybrid a plug-in hybrid? That's going to be the battery pack. So let's open up the charge port here, show you what that looks like. This is a 17.8 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. As far as charging, I'll just mention that if you have a level 2 charger installed in your garage, you'll be able to charge this from 0 to 100% in 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is actually pretty fast. Now, I did forget to mention that we don't know the exact tow figure for this plug-in hybrid version. The other version of the CX-90 though can tow up to 5,000 pounds. Now, as far as safety systems, you're looking at all 4 of your main active safety systems as standard on all 3 trim levels. Additionally, if you choose the Premium Plus, that's going to get you rear automatic emergency braking. But let's go ahead and hop into the inside. There's a lot of premium features in there that we want to show off. Now I know you're wanting to see this vehicle out on the road, and we're gonna get to that in just a little bit, but I wanna show you the interior and how luxurious this new CX-90 is on the inside first. So of course we do have smart entry on every single model. That's gonna continue for the plug-in. Here's your key fob, just a typical Mazda key. And then walking up to the vehicle, you grab the door handle, the mirrors will auto fold out. Let's take a look inside that cabin. Now we do have an all new cabin for this CX-90 as you would expect. And I want to go ahead and hit the materials as well as the color options. Now, since we have the premium plus trim level of the plug-in hybrid, that means we have two color choices of premium Napa leather. So as you can see with this particular model, we have the beautiful black Napa leather. We also have some brown accenting going through the middle with a nice piping, as well as stitching details going through that. You do also have the option of a white interior color choice. Now, of course, if you go for some of the lower end trim levels, you will get different grades of leather. Now, as far as your seats themselves, these are going to be 8-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar support. That's for every version of the plug-in hybrid. We're also going to have 2-person memory seats on all but the very base plug-in hybrid model. But let's go ahead and hop inside. Now, climbing inside of this all-new Mazda CX-90, it's going to be a very premium place to spend time. This is an all-new cabin layout. So let's go ahead and break down some of the materials that you're going to get inside of here. So since we do have the black interior color, we have this really nice aluminum trim going through here, some silver accenting, nicely padded leather armrest portion. All 4 of your windows are fully automatic. The upper parts are going to be a nice soft touch plastic all throughout the entire dashboard. And then as we drop down to the lower areas, this is all a leatherette covering through here with the color contrast stitching. We have leatherette, going through the center tunnel, as well as a lot more of that aluminum trim. It really looks good. If you like black interiors, you're going to like the way this cabin looks. Now, I might go for the white interior color, but I don't have a family, so I don't have to worry about stained seats or whatnot. Now, of course, they do all have push-button start, so let's go ahead and fire it up. If the seatbelt chime would shut up, I would go ahead and talk about the fact that since this is a plug-in hybrid, the main thing you're going to notice when you turn this vehicle on is that the engine doesn't actually turn on because you have that battery to boot everything up. Now, you might notice that we have an all-new gauge cluster for this CX-90, and that's because this is an all-new gauge cluster design. It's a 12.3-inch high-resolution digital gauge cluster. You can vary the design depending on your drive modes. So as we go into different ones, you have different graphics that appear. You can also push this button right here. That kind of transforms the look. It really is a nice premium design. Now, that's actually going to be standard equipment on every single plug-in hybrid model due to the trim structure. Now, up at the head-up display, I do want to talk about this. That is going to be on the top 2 trim levels of this plug-in hybrid model. It is a really nice head-up display, so you have all your information right there in the area, and it's also a wide head-up display with blind spot information, as we were figuring out earlier today. Now, as far as the steering wheel, it's going to be nicely leather wrapped on all the plug-in hybrid models, heating on the top end premium plus trim level. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that we do have a manually adjusting steering wheel, which is something that you don't see on the premium plus 3.3 TS model. Now, talking about interior storage, we do have a pretty nice center console here, nicely felt lined, although it's not really that big. Now, as far as in front of that, here's your Mazda Connect controller. You do have to use this if you're going to use the Mazda infotainment system. So I'll get to that a little bit later in the video, but you will have to use this controller even if you would rather use a touchscreen. Mazda's locking you into using that. On this fully loaded Premium Plus trim level, we're also going to have the Bose Centerpoint audio system, which is a nice feature that you're going to see on this fully loaded example. Here's our shifter. Operation is a little bit odd on this. So park is over here on the left. You bump to the right, that puts you into reverse. If you want to go down to drive, you go fully back. If you want to go up to reverse, you just go back up. And then once you do that, you will see that we have a 360-degree camera system on this particular model. We do also have the functionality of a few different views as well.
Now, right here, you'll notice this button right here. This is specific for the plug-in hybrid to kind of cycle between your different modes. If you want it to charge the battery, if you want to use the battery exclusively, whatnot, that is all done via this button right here. Here's your drive mode controller. And then in front of that, we do have our climate controls. You're going to have standard 3-zone climate controls. Nice new setup for the CX-90 where you just push up and down to adjust the temperature here. And then I do want to point out that all these buttons are physically laid out, which I really like. A lot of brands are going to touch capacitive or putting in the touchscreen. Nice buttons right here on the CX-90. Now, as far as the seats, they're going to be standard heated on every single plug-in hybrid model. Ventilation comes on the top-end Premium Plus trim level. And there's your button for the heated steering wheel. Now moving up to our display, this is a 12.3-inch display. This is the higher end version. This is coming on the Premium Plus plug-in hybrid model, so that top end trim level only. The other two are going to have a 10.25-inch display, which is a little bit smaller than this. I definitely would like maybe for Mazda to have included the 12.3-inch display on every single version. This one particularly is running wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, which is a nice touch. Now, I do want to point something out. We do not have a touchscreen inside of the Mazda infotainment system, but we just use a controller for that. However, inside of Android Auto and inside of Apple CarPlay, you do have the touchscreen ability, so that makes things a little bit easier with doing that. Now, the lower end versions of the plug-in hybrid will have a wired CarPlay and wired Android Auto connection, so do keep that in mind. Now, moving on up, we have an auto-dimming mirror in this fully loaded example. We also have a panoramic moonroof, which is quite nice. This front panel does also open up. Here's the rear seat area in the all-new CX-90. If you want these specific numbers and figures, go see that other review that we have live on the channel. Now, as far as this particular model, as far as features, we have vents here in the center, 2 USB ports, heated rear seats. You cannot get ventilated rear seats on the plug-in model. That is available if you go for the Turbo S fully loaded Premium Plus version. You can get ventilated rear seats, not available on the plug-in, so do keep that in mind. Now, if you're curious about the seating configuration, we do have the captain's chair set up on this particular model. We also have these pop-out cup holders, which is pretty nice. Fancier versions of the CX-90 can actually get an entire center console here in the center as well. Let's check out the third row. So when I get back here, you just grab this little lever that allows you to slide the seat out of the way and get into the third row itself. And the third row is going to be pretty nice in this new CX-90. It's going to be pretty class competitive. We have a couple inches of space between my knees and the seat back, and I'm 5'9" for reference. The thigh support is not fantastic, but it's okay for a vehicle in this segment. We're also going to have vents integrated down here in the bottom, USB ports, and 2 cup holders. Now, walking up to the cargo area, one really nice thing about this new version is that we do have a hands-free power tailgate, so you can do it with your foot, which is something that the Mazda brand has not had before. And as far as the space back here, I know we have some of our camera gear. We're looking at about 16 cubic feet behind the third row seats, and that expands all the way up to about 75 cubic feet if you fold all the seats down, which is a good amount of space. All the seats are going to be manually folding, so you do not have a power folding third row option on the CX-90, but you do have a nice power outlet. It's not exactly the same as power folding, but you have a power outlet. But guys, let's go ahead and get to that part of the video that you've been waiting on, the test drive portion. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Mazda CX-90, but it's not just any CX-90, this is the plug-in hybrid version, which is really a unique offering in this segment of vehicle. You typically don't really see this. There's really only a few competitors, Volvo XC90 Recharge and the BMW X5 plug-in hybrid, which cost quite a bit more than this XC90, so we're definitely or not this XC90, the CX-90. So we're definitely excited to be behind the wheel of this all-new plug-in hybrid and show you what it's all about. Not bad.
Not bad at all. So of course, you know, historically speaking at least, you see hybrid, you start thinking, oh, weak, pitiful. That is definitely not the case with this plug-in hybrid version. As you could just see demonstrated, this actually has quite a bit of power, 323 horsepower, which is more than the standard engine in this. So you would be taking an upgrade if you choose the PHEV.
Yeah, and 369 pound-feet of torque. You definitely feel every bit of that. When we accelerated there, that's like our first hard acceleration in this plug-in hybrid, and it feels really strong.
So what exactly makes up this plug-in hybrid powertrain? Well, this one does not come with the inline-6 cylinder like the other two versions do. This instead is going to be using a 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine, but it's pairing that with a 17.8 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack and a very powerful electric motor setup. Total system on that is what I just said earlier, 323 horsepower. And the interesting thing about it is that you have the engine and the electric motor, and they're contributing almost equal amount to each other. That's where you get such good power numbers from.
Yeah, 189 from the gasoline engine and 173 horsepower from the electric motor. Now, I think there's definitely some sound amplification coming on into this cabin, because that's not what I'd expect a four-cylinder to sound like,
yeah.
But I like the noise.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it or anything. It gives it kind of a deeper note. Now, of course, just like with other plug-in hybrid models, how this is going to work, right? So you keep it in normal mode here. If you're just driving normally, it's going to be on the electric power until you have gone past the 26 miles that this is rated. Actually, when we took over this fully charged model, it was reading 28 miles, so it does depend a little bit on weather conditions.
Yeah, ideal conditions here in California.
Yeah, it's beautiful
about
weather today.
60 degrees and sunny, so that's pretty much as good as it gets for battery power, but that's a good amount of range for a three-row SUV like this, and of course you do have all-wheel drive as standard.
And then, as I was saying, put your foot down like I was just doing. That's going to go ahead and put the full engine on. That way you have both the electric power and the engine going simultaneously. Now, you can go into the drive modes. You can go and lock it into full EV. You can also lock it into just using the engine. That way you can preserve the battery for, say, later on in your drive when you're on a city street.
Now, I already know what a lot of you guys are saying, 26 miles, that's not enough range. Well, one of the things I do want to point out with plug-in hybrids is that they can charge quickly, as well as the fact that most people's commutes, I think they back this up in presentation, we've done a couple plug-in hybrids over the last couple days, and most people's commutes are about 30 to 40 miles on average. Some people's commutes are way less than that daily, and that's going to be pretty much your entire commute under full electric power in a big three-row SUV at 26 miles. So that's something worth considering. You're just going to really be cutting your fuel savings or cutting your fuel cost and saving a lot of money on gas.
I have to say, having spent time behind the wheel with the high output 3.3 Turbo S model, obviously that is faster, but it's not a giant difference.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised. I thought this would actually feel a lot slower than it does. This is pretty spiffy. Like Mason said, at the end of the day, you're driving a large three-row. This is over 200 inches long, that's big. And, it handles that well, and it's really offset by having ample power. So I went ahead and switched this into the EV drive mode now. We'll demonstrate how it is to kind of accelerate with it just under the pure electric power. Okay, and that was up to the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit on this road. It is not bad. Like Mason was mentioning earlier, since you're kind of have equal power between the electric motor and the engine, you are cutting the power roughly in half. That being said, it still feels pretty good. You can easily keep up with traffic. As you saw, that didn't take too long to get up to 50 miles an hour. And it's an interesting sensation because, of course, you're not hearing any engine. It's purely electric, but you still have an 8-speed automatic transmission. We hadn't really mentioned that up until this point, but it has an 8-speed automatic, and it still goes through the gears as it goes up to speed even under electric power, so it's kind of an interesting sensation.
Yeah, and I'd say under full electric power, I'd say definitely, like Drew said, enough to keep up with the flow of traffic. You know, as we take off from like a red light here, you'd keep up fully under electric power. Now, of course, it's not going to be like for that situation where you're trying to really slam on the gas and merge onto a freeway or anything like that. 173 horsepower in a 3-row SUV is not a ton, but it's definitely enough for most circumstances. Now, Drew mentioned the transmission. I will also point out, I kind of briefly said it earlier, but all-wheel drive is standard on every single CX-90 model, so that's going to, of course, apply to this plug-in hybrid version as well. And if you're looking for fuel economy figures as compared to the 3.3 turbo inline-6 cylinder, those are rated at 25 miles a gallon combined, so you're going to be saving pretty significantly in fuel cost by going for this plug-in hybrid. And as far as when you run out of battery, we do not have the official EPA estimated fuel economy for just operating as a full hybrid with no charge. But let's go ahead and hit one of the elements that is most important to the CX-90, the ride quality. Now, we said this in our previous CX-90 review, if you watched that. This is a really comfortable riding vehicle. It's, of course, a family 3-row, first and foremost. It is a Mazda, so we'll talk about the driving dynamics a little bit later in the video, but the comfort is really a focus of this car, and I have to say, it does a great job. Soaks up the bumps really well. The seats are comfortable. No complaints in terms of the ride quality. You do not have adaptive dampers on any of the trim levels, so you don't have to worry about that, but they have tuned it to have a very comfortable suspension. And I do want to just get our sound level reading, going 55 miles per hour. And since we are in a plug-in hybrid, let's do it in EV mode. 55.6 decibels is what we're sitting at. Very impressive reading, guys, and we are in California, so typically our numbers are quite a bit higher on California roads because they're a little bit rougher than back home in Lexington, and that number really doesn't surprise me at all because A, we don't have the engine running because we are in full electric power, and B, this vehicle, they've spent a lot of time just making it have a very premium ambience, and that does indeed translate to a very quiet cabin.
Now we're on a pretty curvy road here in Napa, and let's talk a little bit about the driving dynamics, because this is a Mazda after all. Mazda is really known for, baking in good driving dynamics, and they have here with the CX-90. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll just be clear from the start, this is a luxury-oriented vehicle, so it's still, focused on luxury and comfort. It's not a Miata, but they do have a lot of that DNA still baked into the vehicle. So you've got the new rear drive architecture, so you have a nice balanced feel. One of the things that's great about it is the steering. A lot in this segment, the steering is just a super afterthought, right? In this model, you can tell that they really focused on it. Just like all Mazdas, you barely turn off center, you get that immediate response. It's nicely weighted, has a nice little heft to it as well compared to all the competition. As we go around some corners, there's going to be some body roll because it is a large SUV, but it is nicely controlled. So really no complaints here. I think this is the right balance to strike between comfort and having a little bit of athleticism.
And we may be here in California, but let's bring one of our Car Confections signature elements in, our airball and slam dunk. Now, as far as our airball is concerned, I'll start with that because this was actually pretty challenging for us to come up with. This is a very solid all-around new 3-row SUV. But if you're looking for the fanciest Mazda CX-90, but you're also wanting the plug-in hybrid, that's not exactly the way they've done the trim structure. So the fanciest interior is reserved for the Turbo S Premium Plus, and the plug-in hybrid Premium Plus does not have some of the fancier interior color options. You're also missing a few features like the power adjusting steering wheel, the heated or the ventilated rear seats. So there's just a few little features that you're going to be missing out on by going for a fully loaded plug-in hybrid versus a fully loaded Turbo S model. So do keep that in mind.
Now on the slam dunk side of things, we're going to keep this simple. It's just the fact that they even offer a plug-in hybrid. And we certainly appreciate having it because it does have some unique advantages that you're not going to find on most of the rivals. Frankly, are V6 powered still. If you get a Highlander, I guess you can get a traditional hybrid.
Yeah, most of them don't even have a hybrid, much less a plug-in hybrid. So this is really unique. And you can start as low as $47,000 on the plug-in hybrid model. So, you know, if you're comparing that to another 3-row plug-in hybrid, you're basically locked into buying an XC90, which is going to cost a lot more money than this
way more
CX-90. Now, that's a great segue into our pricing for the CX-90 in general. So it's going to start at $39,000 for the 3.3 turbo model. Now, if you want the plug-in hybrid, you're going to start at $47,400. If you go for the premium plug-in hybrid, $52,900, and then the premium plus plug-in hybrid, as we see today, is $56,950. Now, do keep in mind, no tax credit on this Mazda CX-90. Unfortunately, they do not manufacture this vehicle inside of North America, so that does mean you're not qualified for the $7,500. That would be a killer deal if you were able to do that. So maybe in the future Mazda will move production, and then you could get a $7,500 rebate, which would be pretty awesome.
Or tax law will change, since it's been changing every 15 minutes.
And lastly, I do want to mention that your basic warranty is 3-year, 36,000 miles, and you have a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. And guys, that's going to be where we leave off this review of the plug-in hybrid Mazda CX-90. Now, if you want to know all about those facts and figures and detailed information, you can watch our other review on the CX-90. That's going to be the Turbo S trim level. We have all types of information on that on the channel already, so please go ahead and check that out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support and watching it. If you're not a subscriber, go be one, because you don't want to miss out on some of the latest automotive content. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.